Hello everybody, and welcome to my first tutorial on multiple app workflows and graphics design. I'm Elderin, your host, and today we will be going over Cinema 4D and Daz pipeline workflow for importing characters from Daz into Cinema 4D. So let's begin. Here we are in Daz, and I love Daz. It's a great program for rapidly prototyping characters together and getting them quickly into your 3D application of choice for pre-visualization in a further program like MotionBuilder, or quickly getting facial character together with a good topology for Softimage. It's also great even if you're not using Cinema 4D. You can quickly get your characters into Maya and 3ds Max as well through Daz's great FBX export. What Daz isn't good for though is giving you options when it comes to shaders and materials and textures. You kind of get what you get on the Daz store. It also doesn't have the best of interfaces. For instance, for some particular reason right now I cannot find my smart content for the life of me. Either a database issue with the Daz database or some other mysterious bug. You can go on Google and search these things out, but there's not a lot of information on Daz 4.5 bugs and whatnot. So it can be kind of difficult to get troubleshooting help with this program. A lot of what I learned in here is pretty painstaking, just going through and clicking and trying to figure it out. So I really love to share this knowledge with the community here and get you guys off to a better start than I got off to. Alright, so in Daz here, by default you have the basic Daz 4 Genesis figure. One of the big claim to fames from the Daz company. Genesis is a figure, a universal figure that its content creators can add morphs for, and you can basically apply these various morphs in multiple batches and just kind of sort of get a general figure going incredibly quickly. Once again, you can use this base figure to quickly get into another 3D program like Zbrush or Cinema or Maya, and you can quickly start to really get your own character created rapidly off of what you've done in here. Alright, so what we're going to do here is just quickly set up some morphs. I've got quite a few from the Daz store here. We're going to go ahead and do your basic anime character here. Let's just dial up the Hitomi morph a little bit, but not all the way. You know, we want kind of a sort of a toony humanoid type figure, you know, with exaggerated proportions, but still realistic, is what I think I want to go for with this. Right now I just try to alt and left click in the viewport here, like a Maya user normally would, and rotate around, but I've just installed Daz, so I don't have those keyboard shortcuts. To enable your ability to be able to orbit like that, or to just figure out how to orbit in Daz, took me a while to figure this out. You go into Window and you go into Workspace and you go here to Customize. In your Customize options here, you have the ability to change your orbit, your pan, and your dolly, as well as a number of other options in here, to whatever you'd like, just by double clicking in this white area here and doing whatever shortcut you want to set this to. So in my case, alt left click for my orbit, alt middle click for my pan. Once again, I double clicked in that area, and then I did the alt middle click to set that up, And finally, for my dolly, I like my alt right click. And with those set, I can go ahead and accept, and it'll automatically apply. And now I can rotate around with my alt left click, pan around my alt middle click, and dolly in and out, as well as orbit around with my alt right click. Very nice. Now I can quickly get around the Daz viewport and see my figure from different areas. Now before we apply the skin, I'm going to go ahead over here to my content library, since I can't use my smart content. I'm going to go into my Genesis figure here in my library. As you can see, it is right here. You can use this little fly out here to actually go ahead and view this as a list. This seems to be my preferred way to do it. You know, every 6 months or so I flip-flop between whether or not I like tree view over the list view. But lately I've been using the Mac a little bit more, and I'm really loving the list view organization here of things. Alright, so with our people selected and with Genesis selected, we can go into Genesis's clothing, and we can see all the clothing that can be applied to Genesis. We're going to go ahead and we're going to go down to summer casuals here, and we've got this summer casual sundress that we can go ahead and apply to our character. So if we double click this dress with the Genesis figure in the scene, it will apply to our character, and as you can see, it doesn't shape correctly. Now sometimes by default, sometimes not. I've just reinstalled Daz for the purposes of showing you guys some basic fundamental setups here, but this dress has not auto fit to my character. It's easy enough to fix. All we have to do is, with our universal selection tool highlighted here at the top, we can right click and we can fit the casual dress to our Genesis figure, and Daz will go through and it will automatically shape our dress. This is amazing. In Cinema and in Maya and in 3ds Max, I believe they all have workflows in their cloth engines that allow you to set up a bunch of polygons, set up some scene points, and then have it auto fit. But Daz has some beautiful content on his website generated by some really talented individuals. Really complicated content like this dress, and it's amazing that it can automatically shape to whatever morphs you have chosen in this content field. I mean, you could literally dial up all these morphs for an extremely crazy character, and a lot of your Daz content will still fit. That's incredible. Now with the sundress selected, we can actually go into its materials, and we can actually use the surfaces selector. I found that the surface selection makes it really easy to actually apply materials to particular items. We can come in here and we could actually change the color of the sundress if we wanted to. With Genesis selected using our universal selection tool, however, we need to go ahead and apply a skin to her in order to do some interesting things in Cinema 4D. So let's go to characters and let's see if we can find an interesting skin for her. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and use Kiera. Interesting Brazilian-esque model. These applications right here are actually morphs, and what's cool is with the basic Genesis figure, you can come in here to any of the characters that you have set up, and you can actually apply some of their morphs, and it'll actually automatically put you at dialed in with all that character's morph. So you can basically apply that character in one shot if that's the type of character that you're looking for. Me personally, I love to just go through the shaping tab, and I just love to just dial in what I'm looking for. click on the Genesis figure with the universal selection tool selected, and just go in here and just dial in what I'm looking for to get very unique looks prior to going into my latter workflow with Zbrush and Cinema. Alright, so instead of the morphs, we want her materials, and once we go into materials, we've got all these materials that we can use to basically texture our character out. The great thing about the Daz workflow as well is these textures, once they're brought into Cinema and you do further work on them there, you can actually take out the textures to say ZBrush, apply them with some Polypaint, and then actually get in and work on them further, adding in more and more detail using your normal maps and your displacement maps in ZBrush. I'll be discussing that workflow in a later tutorial. We're going to go ahead and double click on Kiara's skin, and now we have applied a gorgeous skin to our character in no time flat. Beautiful. Now we're ready to export this character for use in our MotionBuilder, Cinema 4D, Softimage, ZBrush pipelines as a jump off point. So we can go to export, and we can start setting up our file structure here. I'm a stickler for organization, so I have everything organized in my pictures library here on Windows 7 in a folder called CG, and another folder called 3D modeling for my 3D modeling, and then we'll create a new folder for this tutorial. Call it importing from Daz. Alright, and then we'll actually create a folder for our FBX, and we'll use that in a second, but let's cancel out of this, and we'll come in, we'll actually save our file. This way we can come back into Daz later if we need to, and we can do something else for the client, like make the model bigger, give her more supermodel figure, or change her skin up really fast, different things like that. So I like to separate my Daz files into their own folder as well, so that all my Daz content will be there, all my FBX content will be there, and so forth and so on. As we start generating different file formats, to separate them out so that their assets don't conflict with each other. So saves the in 4.5, we'll save the Daz file as a DUF. Let's go ahead and save that, and that's pretty quick. And we'll go ahead and do an export. And we'll come here into our FBX folder, and we'll call this import Daz.fbx. Excellent. Alright. Your output options in here are pretty important. Here's your output option, depending upon your workflow, depending upon what applications you have. Cinema 4D R13 and the Autodesk 2011 to 2013 pipelines will be able to use the FBX 2012 format. So that's great. If you have an earlier version of Cinema or a earlier version of the Autodesk pipeline, you may want to go the safe route and possibly export as a 2006 binary. Or if you're sure of what FBX version your application supports, then you can export for that particular year. Alright, we're going to export for 2012, and we're going to export binary. I used to use ASCII almost religiously, just for the ability to have easy import-export, and the ability for it to be human readable, easily accessible. However, the binary files do come out considerably smaller, for one, and for two,